नमस्कर्वेभ्यः। अद्य प्रौढमनोरमायाः परिभाषाप्रकरणे तृतीयः पाठः। ध्यायन् ध्यायं परं ब्रह्म स्मारं स्मारं गुरोर्गिरः सिद्धान्तकौमुदी व्याख्यां कुर्मः प्रौढमनोरमाम्। परनित्यान्तरङ्गापवादानाम् उत्तरोत्तरं बलीयः इति परिभाषा। पर नित्य अंतरंग अपवाद चत्वारः पदार्थाः उच्यन्ते. There are four things which are being given by this. There is para, nitya, antaranga and apavada. Uttarottaram baliyah. So the latter is stronger than the former. For example, para. You have para. We know what is para. Ashtadhyayam parasutram. Uttarasutratvam. That which comes latter in the sequence of the Ashtadhyayi. Vipratished param karyam. You have two sutras. There is a clash. All this is a to decide where there is an ambiguity. Should we apply Sutra A or Sutra B? Okay. The first consideration we always take is the number or the sequence of the Ashtadhyayi. Vipratished param karyam. With a sakshat sutrakarena uchyate. So if there is a vipratished, there is a clash between tulya bala virodha vipratished. Tatra parasutram pravartate iti samanyah niyamah. So if on a general basis we say parasutra will apply, but there are things which are stronger than the para. Okay, nityam asti. We have to see what is nitya. Antarangam asti, apavadaha asti. So nitya is stronger than para. Antaranga is stronger than both para and nitya. Apavada is the strongest. It will overrule anything. Okay, it is stronger than para, than nitya and than antaranga. Okay. Uttarottaram baliyaha. Paranityeti. So he takes the pratika. Paranityam yatha. Udaharanam prayachati. Paranityam. Arthat parasutrat nityasutrasya athva parakaryat nityakaryasya balavatve udaharanam tudati runadhi. Tudati. Tudavyatane iti dhatuh. Before that, what is nitya? Parasutram iti jnayate. Nityasutram nama kyum? Kritakrita prasangi shastram nityam iti ekam lakshanam. There are several lakshanas for nitya. If you look at the Paribhasha into Shekhara, there are 4 or 5 Paribhashas which say that is Kritakrita prasangi shastram nityam. Shabdantarena prapnuvan vidhira nityo bhavati. Shabdantarasya prapnuvan vidhira nityo bhavati. So there are different definitions. But in this, the basic definition which is taken is Kritakrita prasangi shastram nityam. Korthaha. Sutra dvayamasti. Prathamam sutram, dvitiyam sutram. Okay, so there is a particular case where you apply that. Prathamam sutram api prapnoti, dvitiyam sutram api prapnoti iti sthitihi, tatra kim kartavyam iti prashna. Okay. Now we take an assumption. We apply the sutra 1 first. Okay, say we apply A first. So can B apply after applying A? Prathama sutre pravartite, dvitiya sutrasya pravartihi bhavati va iti ekah prashna. तथा द्वितीय सूत्रम आदौ प्रवर्त्यते ततः प्रथम सूत्रम प्रवर्तते वा इति प्रश्नः. It means does the one of the sutras affect the conditions of the other? I mean, say we will see the example. We'll see the example and then we will understand it better. Tudati iti rupam sadhaniyam. Tudavyathane iti dhatuh. Taudadikah षष्ठगणः. So tud dhatoh vartamane lat lakarah kriyate. Tud l ityasti. तिप्तस्थि इत्यनेन तिबादेशः क्रियते. तुद् ति इत्यस्ति. इदानीं किं करणीयम् इति प्रश्नः. पुगन्तलघूपधस्य च इत्यनेन गुणः प्राप्नोति. Okay, since it is तुद्, ति is a सार्वधातुक. सार्वधातुकप्रत्यये परे तित् प्रत्ययं निमित्तीकृत्य तुद् इति लघूपधः. उपधा, the penultimate letter is लघु, that is ukara, hrasva ukara. So that can be replaced by a guna, that is तोद् इति भवति. पुगन्तलघूपधस्य च इत्यनेन गुणे कृते. तथैव तुदादिभ्यः इत्यनेन श विकरणः. इट इज अ विकरण प्रत्यय. कर्तरि शप् कर्तर्थे सार्वधातुके तुदादिभ्यः शः. इफ इट इज अ तुदादिगण फॉर अ भ्वादि we do शप्, फॉर तुदादि we do श. Okay, तुदादिभ्यः शः इत्यनेन श विकरणः प्राप्नोति. Both these sutras are operating. If we look at just the numbers, Pugandalaghupadasya is the Parasutra and therefore we have to apply that. But that is not the only consideration. Here we consider which is Nitya. Okay. Now, if we do guna first. Puganta laghupadasya cha iti gunah kriyate iti chintyataam. So gune krite api sha pratyayah prapnoti. Even after doing guna, we can apply sha, right? Because it is tudati. तोधति इति स्थिते अपि तुदादिगणः सेव धातुः अतः कर्तृर्थे सार्वधातुके श इत्यनेन तुदादिभ्यः शः इत्यनेन शप्रत्ययः प्राप्नोति गुणे अकृते अपि. So whether you do guna or not, whether you apply pugantalaghupadasya cha or not, in both cases sh will apply because the conditions for that कर्तृर्थे सार्वधातुके धातोः शः सच निमित्तः गुणे कृते अपि अस्ति एव. So even when you do guna, the nimitta still is present and therefore sha can apply. Okay? So if we apply guna first, after that we can still apply sha. But if we apply sha first, tudadibhya shaha iti yadi kriyate, tada kim bhavati? Sha pratyayah apit. Okay? It is not pit. Shap is pit, whereas sha is not pit. What is the difference? Sarvadhatukam apit iti sutram asti. Apit sarvadhatukam nidvad bhavati. So it is treated as nit. If sha is treated as nit, it does not have nakara as it, but it is still treated as nit because of sarvadhatukam apit. Yadi sha pratyayah nit, tarhi niti cha ityanena guna nishedhah. If it is followed by nit pratyaya, then there will be no guna. Gunaha na bhavati. So if you don't do sha, we can apply guna, but once you do sha, you cannot apply guna because the nimitta for guna is lost. Niticha ityanena guna nishedhaha prapnoti. Right? So we have sha which applies both before and after guna, whereas we have guna which can apply only before sha. It cannot apply after sha. So in that case, krita akrita prasangi shastram nityam. Yat shastram परशास्त्रे कृतेपि प्रवर्तते अकृतेपि प्रवर्तते कृत अकृत प्रसंगी कृतेपि प्रवर्तते अकृतेपि प्रवर्तते तन्नित्यम. That is treated as a nitya sutra, right? So now what do we have? The sha which is nitya because it can apply both before guna and after guna, whereas guna is anitya. Nityatvat paramapi gunam badhitva shapratyaya eva bhavati. Paran nityam balavat. Since we have just now said that nitya is stronger than para, even though pugantalaghupadasya is para, tudadibhishaha will overrule it because it is nitya and apply. So we do tudu ati tudati ityeva rupam gunaha na bhavati. Same is the case with runadhi. Okay, the tudu ati tudati. So same is with runadhi. You have rudh dhatu which belongs to the seventh gana. So same lati tipi rudhati tisthite gunah bhavedva rudhadibhya shnam ityanena shnam bhavedva iti prashne nityatvat shnam. Sha and shnam are the same. It is just for the seventh gana it is shnam, for the sixth it is sha. Okay. So in both cases it's same. Paramapi laghupadha gunam badhitva sha shnamau. Kim prishtam paran nityam yatha tudati runadhi परमपि लघुपध गुणं बाधित्वा पुगन्त लघुपधस्य च इत्यनेन लघुपधस्य गुणं बाधित्वा श श्नमौ तुदति इत्यत्र श प्रत्ययः रुणद्धि इत्यत्र श्नम प्रत्ययः. That is an example of nitya overruling para. तथा रन्धेर्निच् रन्धयति. पुनः अपरम् उदाहरणं प्रदर्शयति. परमपि उपधावृद्धिं बाधित्वा रधिजभोः इति नुम्. रन्धेः निच् रन्धयति. रध धातुः निच् प्रत्ययः क्रियते. रध इ इत्यस्ति. अत उपधायाः इत्यनेन उपधा वृद्धिः प्राप्नोति. If there is ह्रस्वाकार in the upadha, it will get वृद्धि and followed by nit. अचोनिति इत्यतः अनुवर्तते. So निति प्रत्यये परे अत उपधायाः इत्यनेन उपधायाः अकारस्य वृद्धिः प्राप्नोति. तथैव रधिजभोरचि इति नुमागमः प्राप्नोति. There is also the num by a sutra called रधिजभोः अचि. रध जभ इति उभयोः धातोः अचि अजादौ प्रत्यये परे नुम आगमः क्रियते. So should we do upadha vruddhi or should we do num iti prashnaha. So sutram drishyate ataupadhayaः iti vruddhiः para numagamaः पूर्वः. So So vipratishethe param karyam ityanena वृद्धेः प्राप्तिः किन्तु उपधावृद्धौ कृतायामपि नुमागमः भवति अकृतायामपि. So whether you do वृद्धि first, if we do वृद्धि it becomes radh. So radh इत्यस्मिन् कृते अपि, so even radhadatoh ajadau pratyaya pare numagamah. So even after you do upadhavriddhi, it is still the same dhatu, radhadhatureva ekadesha vikrutam ananyavat. If there is a small change in one part, it does not become something else. It is still radha dhatu. Tasmat tada api numagamah prapnoti. So even when you do apply vriddhi first, after that you can still apply num. And if you don't have vriddhi, you can still apply num because it is radha dhatu. Kintu yadi adau numagamah kriyate, numagame akrite vriddhi prapnoti. If you don't have the num, you can apply vriddhi. But once you do num, there is an akara which sits after akara. Vidacho antyad paraha ityanena antyad ataha akarat paraha num randh I iti bhavati. Ranadh I. Now the upadha is nakara. Alontyat purva upadha. Upadha is the penultimate letter. And once you do numagama, the penultimate letter is nakara and not akara. Since it is not upadha, ata upadhayaha ityanena vriddhi na prapnoti. So vriddhi can apply only before numagama, it cannot apply after num. So numagama is nitya and upadha vriddhi is anitya. Tasmat paramapi upadha vriddhim badhitva numagamah bhavati radhijabho rachi ityanena. Okay, so that is what he is told. Randher niche randhayati paramapi upadha vriddhim badhitva radhijabhoho iti num. Yes, so these are examples for parannityam. Uttarottaram balam baliyaha ityuktam tata parannityasya balavatve udaharanam. Nacha sopi shabdantara praptya anityaha iti vacyam. Sopi nama numagamaha api anityaha. So he says you are applying this on the basis that numagama is nitya and upadha vriddhi is anitya. But he says numagama is also anitya. Katham shabdantara praptya. As I said, there are other definitions for nitya and anitya. So there is a paribhasha which says shabdantarasya prapnuvan vidhihi anityaha. Shabdantarasya prapnuvan vidhihi. Kaha arthaha? Vruddhau akritayam. In this case, if you do not apply vriddhi first, radh shabdasya numagamah bhavati. You are applying num on radh. Okay. Vruddhau kritayam tu. On the other hand, if you apply vriddhi first, radh shabdasya numagamah kriyate. Initially you are doing numagamah for radh. After that you are doing for radh. So shabdantarasya prapnuvan vidhihi. Anyatya shabdasya. It is not to radh that you are doing num. Now you will be doing it for radh. So shabdantarasya prapnuvan vidhihi anityaha iti paribhashaya numagamo api anityaha. So numagamasya api anityatvam siddhyam. Upadha vriddhirapi anitya, numagamo api anityaha. Tarhi katham iti prashnaha. Kritakrita prasanga matrena api kvachit nityatabhyapagamat. So there are some cases where we take the other definitions for nitya. But in many cases, kritakrita prasanga matram. The only condition for nitya is kritakrita prasanga. Whether it is applying on the same shabda or a different shabda or a modified shabda, it will not be considered. Kritakrita prasangi shastram nityam. If one rule can apply both before and after another rule applies, then it is treated as nitya. Okay? Ataha paran nityam balavate. Antarangam yatha. Now we have to see a case where antaranga overrules this. Okay. What is antaranga? It's a question. Again, antaranga is a case where there are many definitions. Okay. Antarangam ityasyapi bahuvidham lakshanam diyate. Atra alpapeksham antarangam iti swikriyate. So initially we take alpapeksham antarangam. That rule which has lesser number of conditions to satisfy. Alpa apeksham pravartayitum alpam yat sutram apekshate tad antarangam. That which requires a lesser number of conditions for application is called antaranga. That which has more number of conditions is treated as bahiranga. Okay. Please remember, para, nitya, antaranga, apada are all relative. It is with relation to a sutra that you can say whether it has more or less. It is not inherently whether a sutra has more number of conditions or less. So if one sutra has one condition, can apply only on presence of one condition and the other has three conditions. So that will be the one with a single condition will be antaranga and that which three conditions will be bahiranga. But if you are comparing two sutras where one has three conditions and the other has four, the one with three will be antaranga. It is always relative. Para, nitya, antaranga, apavada, all of them are relative. So alpapeksham antarangam. Iha prathama charama iti paramapi vikalpam badhitva sarvadini iti sarvanama samnya. Ubhaye deva manushyaha ityatra vibhakti nirapekshatvena antarangatvat. Ubhaye iti rupamasti. Ubha iti shabdat ubhadudatto nityam iti tayap pratyaya sankhyaaya avayave tayap iti tayap pratyaya vidhiyate. Tayap pratyaya tasya sthane ayach iti adeshah kriyate. Ubhaya iti shabdah. Tasya jasi ubhaye deva manushyaha iti vaktavyam. Now jas pratyaya. Okay. Ubhaya shabdasya sarvadigane patitatvat sarvadini sarvanamani iti sarvanama samnya. Sarva, Vishwa, Ubha, Ubhaya. Sarvadigane Ubhaya Shabdaha Patitaha. Tasmat Sarvadini Sarvanamani Ityanena Nityam Sarvanama Samnya Prapnoti. That is a compulsory Sarvanama Samnya. Now, when followed by Jasipare, Prathama Charama Tayalpatha Katipayanemascha, it is Sutramasti. Prathama Charama Taya. Taya Pratyaya Asti. Taya Pratyantasya Jasip Pratyaya Pare Vikalpena Sarvanama Samnya Vidhiyate. Okay. So, a word which ends in Tayap. When it is followed by just has an optional sarvanama samya. Idanim ubhaye iti karanemi ubhaya shabdat just pratyaya pare sarvadini sarvanamani ityanena nityam sarvanama samya bhavati va prathama charama ityanena vikalpena sarvanama samya bhavati va iti prashna. Okay. Now prathama charama is parasutra, right? This is 1 to 27 and this is 1 to 33. Tada kim kriyate? Even though it is para, we see the antaranga and bahiranga. Now, sarvadini sarvanamani. What does it require? It just says sarvadini. If as long as the shabda is present in the sarvadi gana, it will get sarvanama samnya. No other consideration. It just has to be in that gana. Ganapatha matram ashritya sarvanama samnya vidhiyate. Prathama charama ityatra tu prathama charama taya tatra parigananam apekshitam. One thing, it must belong to the list. There is an additional condition, jasip pratyaya. Only when followed by jas, prathama charama will get. So there is one more additional condition, vibhaktihi, jas vibhaktihi apekshate. Sarvadini sarvanamani iti tu vibhakti nirapeksham. It does not require any particular vibhakti. It will simply apply as long as it is included in the gana. Ataha alpapekshatvat sarvadini iti samnya antaranga. Sarvadini sarvanamani is antaranga and prathama charama is bahiranga. It requires an outside nimitta, not just being there. It requires something other also. That is why it is called bahiranga. Bahirbhuta nimitta kattam. It requires something other than itself as the nimitta. Therefore, antarangaha baliyaha. Even though prathama charama is para, sarvadini will overrule it and it will be nityam sarvanama samnya. Ataha ubhaye deva manushyaha iti ekameva rupam. Sarvanamatvat jasaschi ityanena shri adeshaha gune krute ubhaye. There are no two forms. If it is vikalpa, you'll have two forms like prathame prathamaha, charame charamaha. Okay, so that will not apply here. So that is an example for balavatva of antaranga. Antarangatvat nityameva samnya bhavati na vikalpena. Next is the apavada. Okay, so apavada is always the strongest. For an example, this example is not given in the Manorama. He goes directly as to how there is an interaction between antaranga and apavada. So for the sake of clarity, let us look at an example. Apavada is the strongest. For example, you have Sakhi Shabdatu Supratyayah. Anang ityadeshah karaniyah. Sakhirasambudhau ityarena anang adeshah vidhiyate. So what does this anang replace? Prashna. Now, anu iti anekal. Okay, it has many letters. A and n. It has two letters in the adesha. So anekalshit sarvasya ityanena sarvadeshah prapnoti. Nitya, because it is nit, nitya ityanena antadeshah prapnoti. So should it be sarvadesha or should it be antadesha? Anekalshit sarvasya is para. Okay, and nitya is purva. How do we decide? Says nitya is an apavada to anekalshit sarvasya. Nitya iti apavada sutra. Ataha paramapi anekalshit sarvasya iti sarvadesham badhitva nit ade anang adeshah antyasya kriyate. So sakhan su ityeva bhavati. Ikarasya sthane an iti adeshah kriyate. So why is nitya an apavada? What is it that categorizes it as an apavada? Niravakashatvam apavadasya bijam. Always an apavada, if something is treated as an apavada only if it is niravakasha. It does not have its own segment of operation. For example, here nitya, it says nit adeshaha antadeshaha bhavati. But if you look at all the nit adeshas in the Ashtadhyayi, all of them without exception are anekal. All adeshas which are nit are also anekal. That is, they consider they have more than one letter. So now, wherever nitya tries to operate, anekalshit sarvasya will operate there. Since it is parasutra, you always apply anekalshit sarvasya, and there is no place where you can apply nitya without interference from anekalshit sarvasya. All nit adeshas are anekal. Therefore, nitya does not have a domain of its own. Its domain is subsumed by anekalshit sarvasya. Anekalshit sarvasya can apply whether it is nit or not. So it has many places of operation. It can apply in cases where it is anekal and not nit. Okay. Say for example, you have that Jashasoshihi or root of Prathamasya Daravasa. There are so many cases. Atobhesa ice, etc. But nitya does not have a domain of its own. Niravakashaha, avakashaha, nasti. It does not have any chance to operate on its own. That is why it gets strength, because of its niravakasha. If you block it everywhere, it comes back stronger and says, okay, this is my domain. It claims nit as its domain, even if it is anekal. Niravakashatvam apavadasya bijam. Always, an exception gets its strength because it does not have a domain of its own. Because the sutra would be waste. Nitya iti sutrameva vyartham syat. So because of that, we treat an apavada as sarvabaliyaha, stronger than anything else. No other consideration will apply as long if it is apavada. Para, nitya, antaranga, nothing is seen. It is only the apavada which will dominate. Okay, we have another example, savarna dirgha. Okay, say for example, vidya alayaha ityasti. Here, this is difficult to imagine because we always, since we started learning Sanskrit, we have treated it as savarna dirgha. We cannot even imagine anything else here. But if you look at it, adgunaha ityasya pravrittihi bhavitum arhati. Because adgunaha says avarnad achipare. Purvaparayo eko gunaha adeshah syat. Avarnad achipare. Whenever akara is followed by ach, any ach, it does not say anything, any ach. Whenever akara is followed by any ach, you should have adgunaha. Okay. So adgunaha ityanena gunaha prapnoti. Akaha savarne dirghaha. Akaha savarne achipare dirghaha ekadeshah ityanena savarna dirghaha prapnoti. Okay. Now, which among these two should we apply? Is a question. We apply savarna dirgha because it is apavada. Wherever, in case of akara, wherever you have akara being followed by another akara, always adgunaha can apply because of avarnad achipare. You cannot, there is no case where a plus a, you can apply savarna dirgha and not apply adguna because the domain of savarna dirgha is a subset of adgunaha with reference to akara. with reference to the other letters. Ak ityatra a, I, u rule ityasti. Tatra tu sarvatra iko yanachi iti prapnoti. Ikah sthane yan syat atisamhitayam. So that also, any ach, whenever ik is followed by any ach, you have yan as the adesha. Kavi indraha ityatrapi iko yanachi ityanena yan prapnoti. So in both cases, in case of akara, savarna dirgha always is overruled by adguna, whereas in case of other letters, ik, iko and achi can overrule because it is a general sutra. So in both cases, it is niravakasha. Because it is niravakasha, it is treated as an apavada to guna and yan. Okay. So savarna dirgha is an apavada to guna and is an apavada to yan. So yatra yatra savarna dirghasya praptihi tatra sarvatra gunasya athava yanaha praptihi asti. Ataha, and now it is also antaranga. You can say para. Okay, since savarna dirgha is para, paratvat savarna dirgha bhavati iti vaktum shakyate. Kintu gunaha yanma antarangam, because it requires a plain ach. It does not have the additional condition of savarna. Savarna dirgha sandhehe savarnyam bhavet iti adhikaha niyamaha asti. किंतु गुणस्य यणो वा सह नियमः नास्ति. सर्वत्र अचि परे प्रवर्तते. It is antaranga. Okay, so even if it is antaranga, because it is apavada, savarna dirgha is an apavada, we apply savarna dirgha. Antarangadapi apavadah baliyan. Okay, so this is how an apavada will overrule antaranga also. Now in this case there is an additional issue. Okay, niravakashatvad savarna dirgha gunasya enascha badhakaha athava apavadaha iti uktam. Kintu there is an additional this here. Apavadopi yadi anyatra charitarthaha tarhi antarangena badhyata eva. He says apavada yadi anyatra charitarthaha. Charitarthaha means if it has found its application elsewhere. We said niravakashatvam apavadasya bijam. So the source of the strength for an apavada is niravakashatva. That is, it does not have a place to apply. But once it has found its application, yadi anyatra charitarthaha tarhi antarangena badhyata eva. What does this mean? Tadyatha ayaje indram grame iha sarve itham atra antarangena gunena antarangena, it should be now, antarangena gunena savarna dirgha badhyate. What do we have here? Ayaja I indram ityasti. Ittiti tiptajhi siddhastham ibvasmas tatamsha thatathamsam it. It is the uttama purusha ekavachana atmanepada pratyaya. Vande, vandate, vandete, vandante, vandase, vandethe, vandadhe, vande. Vanda I. Okay, that is the it pratyaya. Similarly, you have ayaja I. Yajadhatohu langlakare I pratyaya kriyate. Ayaja I indram ityasti. Grame iha. Grama I iha. Atra ni pratyaya. Saptam ekavachanam. Rame ityatra yatha tatha grame. Grama ityasmat ni pratyaya tatra ikarah shishyate. Grama I iha. Sarve itham. Sarva iti jasmat shi jas pratyaya jasashi ityanena shi adeshaha. Sarva I itham. Now when this is the case, you have ayaja I indram. Should we do guna for akara and ikara, or should we do savarna dirgha for ikara and ikara? Is the question. Similarly here, is it guna between a and I first, or savarna dirgha? Here, is it guna or savarna dirgha? Prashnaha. We say savarna dirgha gunasya apavadaha, which means you have to apply savarna dirgha first. So ayaja indram will become ayajendram. It will not give the required form of ayaje indram itina siddhyati. Similarly, grame iha. Yadi ado savarna dirgha kriyate, grama iha ityasti, grameha iti bhavati. Grame iha iti rupam na siddhyati. So sarvetham iti siddhyati, sarve ittam iti na siddhyati. So what do we do? So he says, apavadopi yadi anyatra charitarthaha tarhi antarangena badhyata eva. Now, here, if you look at the antaranga bahiranga, guna is antaranga, purvopasthita nimitta, because Ayaja is a single word. Indram is a separate word. So initially we have the pratyaya itself. Only then other word comes in. Okay, that is what we call purvopasthita nimittakatva. The nimitta which is first, which arises first, is the nimitta for guna. Okay, so nimitta for guna arises first because it is a pratyaya added to the prakriti. Only then will a second word come in. Because of that, in all these cases, guna is antaranga and savarna dirgha is bahiranga. Now, because it is antaranga, we do guna and not savarna dirgha. Ayaje ityatra gunaha grame sarve ityatra gunaha eva kriyate savarna dirgha na kriyate. Kimartham iti prashnaha savarna dirgha apavadaha iti uktam kila iti chet sacha nama savarna dirgha yadyapi yan gunayor apavadaha, even though it is apavada to yan and guna, tathapi samanashraye charitarthaha. It finds its application samanashraye, where we are trying to say the consideration is same. Say samanashraye. If you have yatra samanayoho varnayoho gunasya savarna dirghasya cha praptihi, where the same letters we have guna and savarna dirgha clashing. Say for example, vidya alayaha. Akara akarayoreva atra prashnaha. Ubhayor akarayoho gunam kurmo va savarna dirgham kurmo va iti prashnaha. Tatra samanashraye savarna dirgha gunasya apavadaha. Here it is not samanashraya. Guna is between a and e. Savarna dirgha is between e and e. Samanashrayam nasti. Atra apavadopi yadi anyatra charitarthaha. So samanashraye charitartham asti. Gunam badhitva savarna dirgha prapnoti yam badhitva prapnoti. Ataha atra vyashraye yatra ashrayah bhinnaha tadrishe sthale apavadaha na. It is no longer an apavada because it is not niravakasha. It has found its application. Now it is just tulya bala virodha. Both are equal. Guna has its application elsewhere. Savarna dirgha also has its application elsewhere. In this particular case, should we apply guna or savarna dirgha? Now we take the other consideration. Initially we take the para. Savarna dirgha is para. But guna is antaranga. Antaranga because of the purvopasthita nimittakatva. Ataha antarangena badhyate eva. Antarangena gunena savarna dirgha badhyate. Right? So there is something which I think has gone out of the slide because the formatting has gone due to some phone problem. So anyway, that is what tathacha vartikam in ni shnam adguna savarna dirghatvat. So there is the Mahabhashya asiddham bahirangam antarange iti paribhashayaha prayojanani kathayan vartikakaraha. Vartikakara is discussing the uses of asiddham bahirangam, the paribhasha, saying antaranga is stronger than bahiranga. So he says in ni shinam. In is the it vahimahim. Okay, so in iti it has become the sandhi. Sandhina in iti prapnoti. It atmane pade uttama purusha ekavachana pratyayah. Ni saptami vibhakti ekavachana pratyayah. Shi jasa adeshaha. So eteshu gunaha savarna dirghatvat antarangatvat adgunaha savarna dirgham badhate iti vartikakareణ api uktam. Ataha apavadopi yadi anyatra charitarthaha. If it has found its application elsewhere, then it will no longer be balavat. Okay, it is not the strongest. Then only the other considerations will apply. As long as it is niravakasha, it is baliyaha, stronger than the rest. Asiddham bahirangam antarange is another paribhasha related. That is why we treat as antaranga is stronger than bahiranga. There is also another thing. He says asiddham bahirangam antarange. Now what we have considered is a case where both antaranga and bahiranga, that is both sutras, are applying at the same time. Now if you have a clash on what to do, we can say that antaranga is stronger than bahiranga, therefore antaranga operates. But there are cases, some other cases. Say for example, this asiddham bahirangam antarange iti paribhasha antarange karye kartavye bahirangam asiddham iti. If you are trying to apply an antaranga karya, a bahiranga karya which has already happened, okay, here both of them are not applying at the same time. If a bahiranga karya has already happened, it will be treated as asiddha. So asiddham iti tena pachavedam इत्यादौ एत ऐत्वं न. So he gives an example. Pachava idam ityasti. Pachavedam. Pachava pachadhatoh lot lakaraha. Lot iti sutrena. Tasya sthane vats pratyaya. It is the uttama purusha dvivachana. Pachava, pachani, pachava, pachama. Uttama purushe dvivachana pratyaya vats iti. Tiprasdhi iti sutrena. कर्तरि शप् भौवादिकः धातुः अतः शप् प्रत्ययः क्रियते. पच् अ वस्. ततः आडुत्तमस्य पिच्च इत्यनेन प्रत्ययस्य आट् इति आगमः क्रियते. Please don't confuse. It is not akara becoming akara. Akara is still here. Pacha ityasti. Pacha a vach. A is an agama for the pratyaya. At pitvat adau bhavati. A vas aduttamस्य पिच्चतेन आट् आगमः. Pacha a vas ityasti. There is savarna dirgha. I missed one step. There is savarna dirgha. Pacha vas. Then nityam nitaha loto langate ityanena sakarasya lopaha. The sakara is deleted, so it becomes pachava. Okay. Now pachava idam ityaste adgunah kriyate pachavedam iti bhavati. So you have pachava idam, you apply adgunah, so it becomes pachavedam. Now there was a paribhasha which we studied long ago in the Kaumudi, antadivaccha. योयम एकादेशः सः पूर्वस्य अन्तवत् परस्य आदिवच्च भवति. एकादेश, wherever we apply an ekadesha, it will behave like the end of the previous part and the beginning of the latter. Like say we are doing pachava idam, it becomes pachavedam. Where does the ekara belong? Will it belong to pachava or will it belong to idam? So we say you can either treat it as pachavedam or pachavu edam. It can either go as the ending of the previous or the beginning of the latter. Not both. Not both at the same time. But it can be either. You can either treat it as pachave. That is, ekara is the end of pachavu. Pachave is one word and dam is the other. Or pachavu is one and edam. That is, you can treat it as the ending of the previous or the beginning of the latter. That is given by antadivaccha. Now, ekaraha. गुणेन एकारः कृतः पचावेदम इत्यत्र स च पूर्वस्य नाम लोट्लकारस्य अन्तवद् भवति. We can treat it as the end of पचाव, that is the लोट्लकार form. पचावे इत्येव रूपम् इति कथयितुं शक्यते. Now if that is the case, एत ऐ इति रूपमस्ति. If there is ekara in a लोट्लकार, it becomes ऐ. Say for example, vandai. Right? You have vand dhatu, lot. Vandatam, vandetam, vandantam, vandasva, vandetham, vandadham, vandai. The I is because the vande, there was initially A has been converted to I. Now in this here, now you have pachave, which is lot lakara. So, eta I ityanena I bhavati. Lot lakare, uttama purushe, ekarasya ikare krate, pachavai iti bhavati va, iti prashnaha. Can we do that? Here, before we do ekara, eta I will not apply. Pachava idam iti sthite, eta I ityasya praptihi nasti. Okay, at this stage you cannot think of antaranga or bahiranga because there is no ekara at all. Okay, atra antaranga bahirangasya pariganana nasti. Once you apply adguna, there is an ekara. So can we convert it into aikara by eta I? It's a question. So now we say, which is antaranga, which is bahiranga? Purvapachira nimittakatva. Since it is a pratyaya, okay, eta I. It says ekarasya aikaraha bhavati. Lot lakarasya ekarasya aikara. It just requires itself, only the lot lakara pratyaya. But the guna requires bahirbhuta ikara nimitta, something which is external. It requires an ikara which is external to it, which is in a different word for it to apply. Therefore, guna is bahiranga and eta I is antaranga. Antarange karye kartavye bahirangam asiddham. If you are trying to do an antaranga karya, the bahiranga will be asiddha. So here, the ekara, that is the ekadesha by guna, is asiddha. And therefore, eta I will not apply. Okay. So there are two cases where you can think of antaranga bahiranga, where they are both clashing at the same time. There we say, paranityantaranga pavadanam uttarottaram baliyaha. Antarangasya baliyastvad tadeva bhavati. Atra bahirangam pravrittam. Bahiranga has already applied. Now, Antaranga will not apply because it has, it is asiddha. Since Bahiranga is asiddha, Antaranga will not apply here. Etai will not apply. We have Pachavedam. Okay. So that is about asiddham Bahirangam Antarange. Antarange karye nama ekarasya ikaradeshe kartavye Bahirangam nama gunaha asiddhaha ataha ikaradesho na bhavati. The last paribhasha which he takes is akrita vyuhaha paniniyaha. And he gives a line, nimittam vinashonmukham drishtva tatprayuktam karyam na kurvanti ityarthaha. Vishishtaha uhaha vyuhaha. Okay. So, prakriti pratyayadi karyam. So, the vyuha here refers to the, splitting of a word into prakriti, pratyaya, etc. and the prakriya which goes on. Akritaha. So, when it comes, it is a final form which is a consideration, not what is the prakriti, what is pratyaya. Which means, you cannot simply apply a rule because it is there. You have the final form in mind when you are applying the sutras. It is not the vyuha, the individual parts which you have in mind, but the final form. Therefore, nimittam vinashonmukham drishtva. Say you are doing something, there is a nimitta, and you do a karya because of that nimitta. But later, that nimitta gets destroyed. Okay. So now what will happen to the karya is the question, which you did on the basis of that nimitta. He says, nimittam vinashonmukham drishtva. So ahead, if you know that the nimitta is going to be destroyed, because you have the final form in mind, you know that the nimitta is going to be destroyed, tat prayuktam karyam na kurvanti. The karya because of that nimitta will not happen. Okay. So we'll see an example. There he says, akrita vyuhaha iti. Yadyapi krutamapi karyam nivartayanti iti paribhashantaram pathyate phalam cha tulyam tathapi akrita ityeva laghu. Prakshalanadhi pankasya duradaspharshanam varam iti nyayad iti bhavaha. I'll come to this panki after we look at the udaharanam. Okay. Na kurvanti iti. Yatha nishedushim ityadau tva Kwasoho itam antarangatvat praptamapi bhavina sampraranena valaditvam nankshati iti alochya na kurvanti ityarthaha. Okay, so this is the form we are debating. Nishedushim. Nishedushim asanabandhadhiraha iti Kalidasaha Raghuvanshe. Nishedushim iti padam katham siddhyati iti prashnaha. Nipur upasarga purvakat sadudhatoho lit lakaraha. Kvasu pratyaya. Don't worry too much about the prakriya. If you are not familiar, just see the points where we have to concentrate. Litadhatohu kvasu pratyaya kriyate bhashayam sada vasashruvaha ityanena. Sadadhatohu parasya litaha vas kvasu iti pratyaya vas iti shishyate. Litidhato anabhyasasya ityanena dvitvam. Since it is still lit, we do dvitva. Anantaram Ata ekahal madhye anadesha derleti iti abhyasa lopaha etvam. We delete one of the dvitva abhyasa and we do ekara. So it becomes ni sed vas. Now because this vas is valadi. Okay, vas iti valadihi pratyaya. For an idagama, we are trying to do an idagama. Ardhadhatuka sed valadehe ityataha valadehe iti anuvartate. So vasu pratyayasya valaditvam ashritya Vasvekajadghasam iti idagamaha. So the vasu will get it as the agama. Because it is sthit, it is in the adi. Ni sed I vas iti bhavati. Now we are trying to do a strilinga. Nishedushim ityasti. So strilingaha. So I pratyaya kriyate. Ugitascha. Since vasu is ugit. Ukara is it. Ugitascha ityanena nip bhavati. Ni sedivas I. Now there is a sutra which gives samprasarana. Vasos samprasaranam ityasti. Vasohu bhasya, where there is bhasamnya. Yachibham. Kapratyayavadhishu, swadishu, yakaradishu, ajadishu. If it is an ajadi pratyaya, it will get bhasamnya. Bhasamnyatvat vasoho samprasaranam kriyate. Igyana samprasaranam. Samprasarana is replacing a yan letter with ik. It is the reversal of yan. Yan is replacing ik with yan. The samprasarana is replacing yan with ik. Okay, vakara is replaced by ukara. Now, if you look at this, is this clear? Here we did an idagama because of vakara. Vakaraha asti valadihi iti krutva idagamaha krutaha. Sacha vakaraha samprasaranena nashitaha. Now that vakara has been lost by samprasarana. Okay, vasu will always get samprasarana. Since it has samprasarana, it has been lost. The nimitta for ikara has been lost. Now what can we do? There are two options. One thing, kritamapi karyam nivartayanti. Idagamasya nimitta bhutaha vakaraha samprasaranena apahrataha. Since the nimitta is lost, ataha kritaha idagamaha nivartaniyaha. We will reverse. Initially we did an idagama. Now we say since the nimitta is lost, nimitta nashe naimittikasyapi apayaha. Once the nimitta is lost, the naimittika, the karya which depended on that nimitta will also be lost. So the idagama will go away. So we don't have the it. So there is nised u as. The e is gone. Vakara is converted to ukara by samprasarana. Samprasarana cha iti purva rupam. Nised us e ityasti. Ubhayoh shatvam. Atra us ityasya nishedushi adesha pratyayoh ityanena shatvam. Tatra sagarasya tu sarira pratyayah ityanena shatvam. Nishedushi iti rupam siddhyati. Okay, so there is no idagama. I mean, the idagama which was did has been reversed. You initially apply it, and because the nimitta is lost, you reverse it. That is one option. Or, athava prakshalanadhipankasya durad asparshanam varam. You touch a panka. Panka is, what is it? Mud with water. What is the word for it? I am not getting the English word for panka. Panka is slush. Okay. So slush, you can touch it. I mean, nothing will happen. You can touch it and then you can wash it away. But prakshalanadhi pankasya durat asparshanam varam. It is better to not touch it. Stay far away and not touch it rather than washing your hands after touching it. Prakshalanadhi pankasya durat asparshanam varam iti nyayena. So by this, instead of doing idagama and then sending it away, Agavinam samprasaranam alochya. Knowing that there will be samprasarana, idagamaha na kriyate. We don't do idagama at all. Even though there is a nimitta now, we know that the nimitta is going to be lost, so we don't do idagama. So in Siddhanta, the prakriya, the one which I showed, that is we do it and we don't do it, is a paksha. That is one paksha. But actual Siddhante prakriya, litlakaraha, vasu pratyaha, द्वित्वम अनन्तरम अभ्यासस्य एत्वम अभ्यासलोपः एत्वम idagamaha na kriyate. We don't do idagama at all. Even though there is nimitta, we do not apply the it. Okay, we directly go on to do nip. Nip pratyah kriyate tataha samprasaranam. Ukarasya sthane ukaraha. Samprasaranacha iti purva rupam shatvam. So we simply skip the step of idagama because we know that the nimitta is going to be lost. That is what Dikshita says. Nimittam vinashonmukham drishtva. Seeing that the nimitta is going to be lost, tat prayuktam karyam. A karya which is depending on that nimitta, na kurvanti. We do not do. That is what is told by the Paribhasha. Akrita vyuhaha paniniyaha. That is what it means. So we will come back to the Praudhamanorama Pankti here. Yadyapi kritamapi karyam nivartayanti iti paribhashantaram pathyate. So there is another paribhasha which says nimittam vinashonmukham drishtva vinashtam drishtva kritamapi karyam nivartayanti. That is what we saw first. We do the karya as per the lakshana and then we send back the karya. If the nimitta is lost, we reverse it. We send it back. Kritamapi karyam nivartayanti iti paribhashantaram pathyate phalam cha tulyam. And the final result of both these paribhashas, whether you say tat prayuktam karyam na kurvanti or kritamapi karyam nivartayanti, phalam tulyam. Phalam tu samanam. Samana rupa siddhihi bhavati. Tathapi akrita ityeva laghu. It is better or easier to say akrita vyuhah paniniyaha. Why? Because you are reducing a step. Laghava. Prakshalanadhi pankasya duradasparshanam varam iti nyayat. Iti bhavaha. So, it is better to not touch flesh rather than washing it away. So, it is better to not do the karya at all rather than doing it and then reversing it. न कुर्वन्ति इति यथा निषेधुषीम् इत्यादौ क्वसोः the kwasu pratyaya itam antarangatvat praptam. It is antaranga because it depends only on the vasu pratyaya, whereas the samprasarana depends on the external neep. It depends on a pratyaya which lies outside. It depends only on itself. So kwasoho itam antarangatvat praptamapi. So even if it has to apply because it is antaranga, bhavina samprasaranena, by samprasarana which is going to happen in the future, valaditvam nankshati. The valaditva will be lost. That is the nimitta for idagama will be lost. Iti alochya. So thinking thus, nakurvanti. Idagama is not done. So we derive the form nishedushim without the idagama. Okay, that is what is given by akrita vyuha paniniyaha. So this is the prakriya in Siddhanta according to akrita vyuha paniniyaha. Okay. So that is the end of Paribhasha Prakaranam in the Prodha Manorama. The next is